So you're probably thinking, Debbie's really old because she's been around a while, which is true, but it's actually a state of mind and all that stuff, right? So it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today. I'm obviously a fan of UNM and the Anderson School and Linda Parker and wonderful Jim and all the things that you guys do. So good for you for doing what you do. I'm happy to talk to you about marketing, and I'm sure all of you know a little about marketing because there's so many entrepreneurs in the room, and so many of you obviously are self-driven and things like that. And also, it's Andrew's fault. He told me that I'm a wanderer, and he said I have to stay in this area right here. You can, if I wander off, you can holler. And then, Ken, if you'll give me a 10-minute warning, that would be great. I'm going to talk to you about marketing today, which is not rocket science. I guarantee you, it's absolutely, positively common sense. And it's instinct, and you can decide, and I can help you decide on all the, maybe not this fast, if you have good marketing instincts, because I think if you do, and most people actually have better marketing instincts than they think they do, especially if they're in customer service businesses, because they do well at customer service businesses if they have good marketing instincts, and that is simply knowing what people want and need. Like I said, it's not rocket science. It's simply knowing what people want and need. I know that Ken mentioned that I have a certificate in the entrepreneurial mindset training, which is actually really cool, and we'll save that for another day. But one of the things that entrepreneurs do is they fill needs. The reason that a lot of people start a business is they see a need. And entrepreneurs are usually great marketers. And so there are a lot of you in the room, and you've already got the hardest part figured out. Good for you. Does everyone have a yellow handout? Because I'm write things down, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to do that if you did want to write anything down. I'm going to give you 20 words that start with C. Yes, it's a little marketing technique for memorization. And so you can just follow along if you want or not. If you don't, no problem. But I'm not using AV today. I'd like human eye contact, and besides, this isn't rocket science. So again, I'm just going to do that. And why did I choose vitamin C? What does vitamin C do for you? This is an interactive session. Okay, it basically cures colds. It actually is good. Gives you a lot of energy, and it also protects your immune system. And those are two elements of marketing, because marketing takes energy, it takes persistence, it takes resilience, it takes just dogged determination, and then your immune system we'll talk about a little bit just in terms of your brand or your business or what's at the core of what you do and why you do. There is a connection, but as I said, it's not even science, much less rocket science. I think also to use a lot of cliches, and we'll be talking about some cliches and some redundancy, as we've already talked a little bit, because marketing is repetition and redundancy, and that's hard for people. A lot of people think, I have to be original every time I say something, or I should think of something wrong. The way marketing works is it's like drip torture. And that really is true. The more you drip on people and the more consistently you drip on people, the better, the easier they get it. And just about the time when you are about to throw up, when you're so tired of hearing that drip or that same statement or whatever, just about then they get it. Don't ever underestimate the power of repetition. It's grossly underused. How you doing, Seth? And great to have you. But people shy away from it because they get tired of their message and they get tired of hearing it. Now, political ads are the exception, I have to say. And another thing I have to say about marketing, because marketing is all about messages always, and it's always about tone. And I think marketing in a lot of ways is about caring and being kind, and we don't have that in American politics today. I think basically it all stinks. And I think that you probably agree that a lot of the ads that are already, it's highly unusual in a political campaign, for those of you that, if you've ever done one, to start with the accusatory and negative ads this early. Normally they wait till the very last minute because they think that people make their minds up the last minute, but nowadays with mail-in votes and early registration and all of that stuff, people vote literally beginning in a few weeks and on. Political advertising is its own animal. I hate what it's done to, what politics has done to America, and that's just my personal opinion. But it is a form of marketing, and later if you do have questions or whatever, we can talk about it. But it's the kind of marketing you probably don't want to do. In addition to talking about tone, I just want to plant another seed in your head, and that is about the different types of people that can help you market. How many of Gary Opedal? Any of Gary? Yeah, great guy and a good marketer, even though, and an incredible entrepreneur. I've worked with Gary in a lot of different positions and ways over the years. And one thing that Gary told me that I think is the greatest advice I've ever heard is people are one of three, or two actually, are two of three things. There are three kinds of aspects of personalities. There are thinkers, there are planners, and there are doers. And he said the deal is you can pick any two, because most people are two, but don't pick, he said pick thinker doers or planner doers. Don't pick thinker planners. And boy, was he right about that, because some of my good friends are thinker planners, and they're really good thinkers, and they think of a lot of great stuff, but they think and they plan, and they think and they plan, and they think and they plan, and you gotta do. At some point, you just gotta do stuff. And a lot of advertising and communications and marketing is experimental, because a lot of times you have no idea how people are going to react. It's good if you know your customers well enough to predict, but you don't always know. And I'm with Gary. I think planner doers or thinker doers are the type of people that you want. If you own a company and you have several employees, pick the doers, because those are the ones that will get it done, duh. And it's really important. I've worked for a couple of companies where one person said to me, typical Debbie, she wants to aim, shoot, and then she wants to shoot and then aim. And I said, guilty, because you can spend all day lining things up in your sites. You just need to try some stuff. That's my mindset. With that in mind, let's talk about the 10 C's. First one is communication, duh, because marketing is, I wandered out of your thing. Marketing is communication, and the two are really pretty inseparable. Good communication is good marketing, and vice versa. Communication is a really important one. We're also talking about desired communication, because there is undesired communication, and we can talk about that too. But we're talking about the communication that you desire. And there's internal communication and there's external communication. And both of those are important to your marketing, because if you communicate well inside your company with your employees, you are far better off than if you don't. They've got to be a part of your marketing, especially if you own in my opinion, every business is a customer service business, but if you own one that relies on customer service, like a restaurant, people are interacting with the public all day long, you have got to work with them, because they're part of your communications. And I know I've done a lot of work with tourism over the years, and almost every meeting that I went to where we were talking tourism, we were talking about basically the universe in Albuquerque of restaurant workers. Because if you're visiting a place, who do you ask about the local things to see? Guy waiting on your table or the lady waiting on your table. And if they say something like, it's terrible, there's nothing to do here, food, there's nowhere to eat out, you remember that, and it makes an impact. So one of the things that I thought the Visitors Bureau did so well, and I highly admire Tanya Armenta, who's run it for years, is she started doing training all around the town with wait staff so that they would understand that they are ambassadors. So that's internal communication, but it has huge external effects. And that's just one example of why it's so important to work with your employees. Your employees help you set the tone. There's a lot to be said about tone at the top. It's a thing. It really is a thing. And I think the leadership of a company shows, frankly, in a lot of companies about the way it's run. Could be said about the country, but we're not going to talk about politics, and because we have all kinds of craziness going on, as I said. But internal is really important, so don't underrate. How many of you have interacted with C&M? Anybody? Take a class or whatever. As Ken mentioned, I was fortunate enough to work at C&M for several years, and it was actually the first time I'd ever worked with an organization that big. C&M is really big. There are actually more students at C&M than there are by about 1,000, and so C&M is a giant entity, which could be a huge bureaucracy. But you know why it's not? And I think it's because what is absolutely palpable on that campus is a can-do attitude. From the president herself, and that's true of Tracy as it was for Kathy Winograd, to all the vice presidents, to all the administrative staff, to all the deans, to all the professors and everything else. There's just a can-do attitude. And it's one of the reasons that C&M is really vital with economic development in this city, because the workforce pipeline is really important in economic development. And C&M is one of the biggest feeders of our workforce pipeline. And I don't think I've ever been in a meeting where somebody from C&M said, oh, I don't think we can do that. They just don't say that. It does not come out of their mouths. But then if you pick other organizations like, oh, Public Education Department, I've been in a million meetings with those, and the first thing out of someone's mouth is usually, oh, we can't do that. Oh, we tried that. Oh, we shouldn't do that. Oh, that's going to be too hard. It's, hello, you guys were in charge of educating our children. Maybe we could do, remember, those are thinker planners. A lot of government bureaucrats are thinker planners. And I know I'm grossly stereotyping, but I'm just telling you what I've seen. And so again, hang around the thinker doers, because those are the ones that will help you. And those are the ones, frankly, that have a can-do attitude. And so I applaud those kind of people. So there's internal, there's external. How many of you have eaten at Chick-fil-A? Okay, what do the people at Chick-fil-A say to you? Or they used to, before COVID, they were really good at this. COVID just screwed a bunch of stuff up. But what did they used to say to you at Chick-fil-A, especially before, when they waited on you, especially before COVID?
How can I make your day better?
Exactly, or it's been my pleasure. Absolutely, and they say it with sincerity. It's one of the reasons I like Chick-fil-A, just to feel good when somebody sincerely thanks you and says it's been a pleasure to serve you. And the reason is the founder of Chick-fil-A had some real bumps in his life. There was some illness in his life, some other challenges, and he used to say to his sons who now run the company, and they say to their kids who run the company as well, you never know what people are going through, so be kind. And so he, again, corporate culture, tone at the top, call it what you want, but it's communication and it reflects on your company, and they do a heck of a job. So think about companies that you admire for those reasons. All right, number 2, customers. Duh. They're the most important thing, and you really need to know them, and that's where your instincts come in, because if you've chosen a certain industry or company, or you've started a certain industry or company, you know what people need, and you know what kind of customers you want, and you should know what kind of customers and what things will attract them to doing business with you and or your company, so you know their needs. So trust your instincts on that and service those needs. There's all kinds of ways to do that, but you really, again, think of companies you admire. What large retail chain comes to mind when you think of good customer service, especially in California where there are stores? Nordstrom. Say you guys knew immediately, and that's because the training at Nordstrom is always about customer service. And what is their return policy? Whenever you want to bring it back. They don't have a 30-day thing. I've been occasionally in a Nordstrom store where someone will say, hey, I bought this a year ago, but I don't like it. They say, we'll take it back. They almost take that too far, because I once thought of that, but they really are pretty amazing. Exactly, exactly. And family businesses, good point, because I ran a family business, Parker's about family business, you guys are about family business. They can be a challenge. They can be a real challenge, because family dynamics are interesting. I've been fortunate enough to work with almost every legacy family in this town, from the Langs to the Abruzzos to the Maloofs to you name it. I've worked with a lot of family businesses, and the Garden Schwartz family, all kinds of legacy families in this town. And one characteristic, they're always hardworking, they always care about people. There are reasons that family businesses go on year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation, if they do. And if they don't, oops. It might be one of the reasons, but caring about customers is one of them. Reliability sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people forget reliability and their customers. And it's simply do what you say you're going to do. Like I said, it's not rocket science, it's simply do what you say you're going to do. Then if you do that, then they know they can rely on you and they can trust you, and so they come back. So some of this stuff is really easy. And also it's interesting, AI and the whole humans versus machine things. I was terrified about AI. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be awful. I have to say, it's not as bad as I thought, and good old Siri really does try to please you most of the time and try to be helpful. I certainly don't think humans are going to be replaced, because I hope they aren't. It appalls me. Those of you that study generational trends know that Gen X's hate human interaction. They really don't. They would 10 times rather, for instance, do their banking online than enter a bank lobby. And entering a bank lobby has zero appeal to them. I personally appreciate the banks, thank you for those of you in banking, who have at least one lobby in town, because every once in a while you got to go see a human. And so I really appreciate businesses that have human access possible. It doesn't have to be 24/7 like it used to be, but having a human available at certain times, I think, especially to older generations, that's important. So don't say it out loud, but how many of you, when I say the worst customer service, how many of you can think of a company immediately? Because I bet you we're going to have some I can think, okay? Okay, now say it.
AT&T?
Okay.
That was mine.
Okay, others?
Xfinity.
I was going to say Xfinity. Interesting, because both of them are in the similar business. And yikes, I don't even think they've ever heard of customer service. You never get the same person twice. You never get the same answer twice. You never, it's just, if they weren't big monopolies, there would be more justice in the world, because they really don't get customer service, and it's absolutely maddening. And I think it's unfortunate, again, for America, that these are the kind of examples that sort of younger people are used to. And that is, I didn't expect to be taken care of. I didn't expect someone to be nice to me. I didn't expect to talk to someone in my town. Their expectations are actually lower, because customer service in America is not what it was a few years ago. Let's all bring it back. And I love the way a lot of you are nodding, because it's really important. And I think it, again, tone sets the tone. All right, number 3 is competition. And the bottom line on that is know them. I mean, know who you're up against. Don't be afraid to be a secret shopper. You all know what that is, right? It's when you go visit the competition and you don't say, hey, I work, I'm your competition. You simply go and be a customer, and you feel what it's like, and you feel how they treat you, and you see the line of products or services that they have and things like that. You do need to check them out. Ken mentioned that we did several entrepreneurial things Rick and I did in our incredible journey together, and one of them was we had a small research company. And so guess what kind of a UNM graduate we hired to head that up? An anthropologist, because anthropology is observation. This young woman, who was awesome, literally had been one of the lucky people who got to go to Africa to work with Jane Goodall. And what did Jane Goodall do for 35 or 40 years? She observed gorillas. And when you observe people, gorillas, whatever, day after day after day, you find out what they like, you find out what they need, you find out how they interact, and you find out what they don't like. And like I said, marketing is common sense. And so a lot of it is just being observant. You can, again, another credit to family-owned businesses. When you enter a family-owned business, who's usually there? Part of the family. You think of the restaurants in this town that were owned by all of the people that we love. Nick Capnison comes to mind. The list is endless, and I don't want to start, or I'll leave someone out. But you can really tell in the family-owned restaurants in this town, many of whom are doing well, that the owner, as Nick was, Nick and Jimmy's, he was in the kitchen until he was 82 or something, 84. Those of you that ate there, he spent a lot of time in that kitchen, and the food was fabulous. So we miss Nick and Jimmy's. Also, location is really important, and obviously you guys know that, but I mean, we worked with McDonald's for 25 years. The McDonald's Corporation only had 11 agencies in the country that they let do local store marketing years ago, and we were fortunate enough to be one of them. And I loved working with McDonald's, because that's a corporation and a company, regardless of what you think of their food, they get marketing. They always have. They do it well. They appreciate it. They make it a priority. And so working with McDonald's was really a pleasure. And one of the things that they do, so they obviously are in tune with their customers, but they know how to pick locations. It used to make me crazy when the corporation would be in town to pick a new location for one of the new stores. And what would happen a month after they identified that site, those of you in real estate? Who would buy the site across the street? Burger King. Every time. Go around this town and think about all of McDonald's. They were there first, and Burger King was right across the street. Who does that now in the fast food industry? Walgreens for sure, and CVS, absolutely. And how about Chick-fil-A and Cane's? Where did Cane's go? Across from Chick-fil-A. There's 2 of them in town, and they're across from a Chick-fil-A. That's no accident, and that's because their real estate people think, let's see, I could spend hours and weeks poring over maps and locations and traffic count, or I could just buy the site across the street. So that's what they do. So location's really important because it means access to people who like interacting with humans. It also means convenience, and it means visibility. If you've got there really is something obviously to traffic count. If you're on a busy intersection, people drive by every single day and they see your sign and they might smell your food and they think of you. Location is important. So what's the difference, or is there a difference between price and value? Yup. And what's important about price and value? Is it the price itself? Pardon me? Build value is what's important. The price is obviously important to the business, but the value perception is what's really important. And there are lots of, think about clothing and purses and women's wear and a lot of those brands that, I mean, incredible. It always shocks me where you get these little tidbits of information. If you're a news junkie like I am and you always have a TV on, I can't even remember what the occasion, but they were showing that Jennifer Aniston was filming a movie, and the shot of her getting black oil thrown on her, I saw 30 times just because they were talking about her movie. And one reporter out of 30 of them said, by the way, because she was wearing a little strap-on handbag and they covered her with black oil, and he said, by the way, that was a $2,500 Gucci bag that she was wearing. And I thought, seriously? You were going to throw oil on her. Why didn't you go to Walmart and get something to put on her instead of throwing oil on that bag? But value is extremely important, and the higher the value, the more you can charge for it, obviously. But value perception is also a lot about what you consider valuable. I'm still in the media business, obviously, since I work across the street at the publishing company. And newspapers, as you all know, it's been a really trying time for newspapers because news is free on the internet. And even more terrifying, I think a lot of young people don't know the difference between news that is turned out by professional journalists and news that is posted by, anybody. So fact and fiction is really blurry on the internet. But newspapers, I guarantee, they're in some form or another, they are always going to be here. In some form or another, there will always be some kind of a print edition. And again, this community, frankly, is lucky to have a family-owned newspaper. There used to be over 500 family-owned newspapers in metro areas this size. Now there are less than 10. And one of them is the Albuquerque Journal, thanks to the Langs, who live right across the street. And I really admire for them keeping that paper going, even though it's been a very challenging business environment. So regardless of what you think about the Journal, hopefully you like it. Some days you probably don't, and there are days when I don't like it either. But anyway, it's a great thing to support because it is still a family-owned business. In terms of, we did price versus value, and so let's move on to number 4. Canopy is what? Your brand. I mean, I needed a word with a C, right? I picked Canopy. But basically, your brand is your overarching canopy, and that is something that's real important. The term brand and branding has been thrown around a lot, but it's what you stand for, it's the essence of your business, it's all of these things. It's your customer service, it's your location, it's how you look, it's how your food tastes, it's how well your product works, it's all of those things. Brand is just people's impression of you, and it is through their impression of you that they gauge value. That's how you build value, is some of the things I've said. You're reliable, you're trustworthy, the things that matter. And a brand is simply a combination of all of those things. Everything about your essence or your soul or whatever you want to call it deals with your brand. And so your brand is what you want to protect. People have brands. Think of how many of you were hooked on the Olympics like I was. There was a brand or 2 or 3 competing in every single event. It's phenomenal what has happened to sports marketing. And then sports itself is an interesting brand story because there are different sports that have different brands or different connotations or different reactions, et cetera, et cetera. And a brand is basically your overarching perception. What's the most important tool to branding? What we talked about earlier. Repetition. And redundancy, totally. Again, the way you build value, the way you build perception, the way you build familiarity, the way you build visibility, everything is just you repeat stuff. You repeat it consistently. You don't be obnoxious about it. You do change it up and there are different elements and things like that. But it's basically just saying the same thing over and over because that's what people, your customers are different every day, and they have different things going on every day, and they have different places to go, and other places spend their money, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of just noise and that kind of competition. If you're just constant, what are a couple of the great brands in America?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, Nike, two of the best, great examples. And what have they done year after year after year after year? They've been, Nike especially, has been totally brand consistent. They have not changed that logo. They have not changed the way that they focus on athletes. They have not changed their stories about courage and determination and sticking with it. Nike's been fabulous. And their value perception is huge because their product is good. And Coke had a real bump a few years ago when they introduced Coke Zero, remember? For those of you that were around and drinking Coke, and they went off their brand because they thought Coke Zero is different, doesn't have sugar and all that stuff, so we got to do something different. Bad idea, because nobody knew it was Coke. So the sales were like terrible. They came out of the gate with no sales, and they couldn't get people to try it, and trial is getting people to, is the way you connect with people. So they immediately, they realized within 2 or 3 months, thank goodness, and they went back and labeled it as a Coke and changed the font a little bit. So they recovered from that, but that was a really bad idea. What's another brand that was shaken lately and hasn't recovered? Anybody? Bud Light, so you knew immediately. Somebody way down in the marketing department said, I think we should appeal to a certain demographic, and didn't know their customers, because the Bud Light customers were not the ones that were going to support the group they were talking about. And so Bud Light, I know you all have seen the figures, their sales figures were huge, and they dropped within, not days exactly, but weeks. They have never gone back up. They just dropped and tanked. It was, and that, boy, person probably doesn't have a job anymore. That was really bad judgment, and it had nothing to do with how you believe about politics or lifestyle or whatever. It had everything to do with knowing your audience. That's not the folks who were drinking Bud Light. So you really, yeah, you have a question? Oh, that's all right. Oh, sorry. I'll try to get to you sooner. Yeah.
So for some of us that don't have Morgan Stanley's ad budget, that are starting out, just real quick, what are some of the ways that we can meet that repetition need without, sorry,
do what you can. You can have flyers, just do what you can, do everything that you can. And also, you may not think you have a huge advertising budget, but I can tell you that the media these days, newspapers have struggled, but so have radio and TV stations and things like that. Don't be afraid to go to a radio station, go to a TV station, go to a magazine, a local magazine, or go to any of those and say, you know what, I got $100. And it's, in past they would have gone, see ya, but today they'll go, $100, let's see what we could do with that. Seriously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not a lot. You don't have to have a giant advertising budget these days to talk to some of the media, because they love to have new customers, they love to offer new products and services, and they want you involved. And so they can be pretty creative about thinking of ways to help you. Now you gotta be careful, because not every salesman is going to have your best interest at mind. They're going to be thinking about a commission, obviously. But the majority of them will really work with you. And they might say, you only got 100, how about 200? And you could say, I think I could do 200 or whatever. It's a collaboration. It's a back and forth thing. But if you don't have the $100, like I said, print flyers in the store that talking about specials, or banners in the parking lot, or training your employees to suggestive sell. There's a reason that whenever you go into McDonald's, they say, you want fries with this? They've been trained to do that. They haven't been trained necessarily to be nice like at Chick-fil-A, but they have been trained to say, you want fries with that? Because fries, huge profit margin in fries, huge. And so saying you want fries with that is definitely deliberate. Little things like that's marketing, and it doesn't cost you anything. And just keep at it. It's a cliche. Persistence is really a lot of it. Just keep at it. Think of observe your customers, observe your staff. Ask your staff. I would definitely include, even if you got a 17-year-old kid at the cash register, ask them how to get their friends in. Just do what you can, and just build on what you can. Yes. I'm sorry? Exactly. Absolutely. And so, and it's a hard investment to measure. It's one of the hardest to know what kind of return you're getting on your advertising. But it definitely is an investment because it contributes to, obviously, the bottom line. Yeah. It's good and bad. One of the things about repetition is its algorithms, and algorithms run everything. So that part can be good because that's the part you want, but okay, thanks. But then it can be bad because one thing, you don't want things repeated if they didn't exactly work and things like that. So you just have to think about it and again use some common sense, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, I'm going to really speed up here. Number 5 is continuity, and we've talked about continuity. It's repetition, it's reliability and predictability. Number 6, collaboration. And that's with everybody. Collaborate with the media. Collaborate with your friends. Collaborate with your customers. Collaborate with your employees. Just build a relationship with people who can help you. Other kinds of, not necessarily your competition, but just look for other people who have your same customer base, who have your same challenges, and who want to build their business the way you do. They're partners where you would least expect them sometimes. They really, and don't be afraid of co-promoting. If you sell a widget that needs a whack-it or something, but do work together to sell. If you sell something that you can't only get one place or whatever, don't forget to collaborate. Yes?
And with that, a lot of the times when you collaborate, that marketing budget with
Exactly.
your vendors
Yeah.
or someone who you can work with, and then you're splitting that.
Exactly, exactly. So look for partners and also associations. If you're in the hospitality industry, the tourism department is fabulous. If you're in economic development area, and those other organizations are wonderful. There are industry associations that are very helpful in this town. So absolutely participate with them. The Anderson School of Management, actually, you have to know how to weave your way through. Linda and I were talking about this earlier, the college itself, but how many of Rob Del Campo? I think he's the most valuable guy at UNM. Rob is a doer. Rob is a thinker-doer. And actually, no offense to those of you who might have PhDs, but a lot of times academic environments are where the thinker-planners are. Because if you have a PhD, you think heavy things. And you think a lot. And I love Rob because he's a doer. He's a thinker-doer. Participation in the community is another thing under collaboration. There are plenty of statistical evidence that shows that younger generations, it's really important to younger generations that they work for a company that respects their same values, and whether that's like saving the planet or saving puppy dogs or finding homes for the homeless or whatever. It's really important to them to work for companies that value their community and participate in social services and things like that. With them, it's not just a thing. It's really important to them. So get involved in the community. If whatever your company does, if there's some way you can help build a social service organization, donate food, donate volunteers, whatever, that pays back. That's an investment as well, because it does take time, but it's also an investment. So that's really important. Number 7, I called cheerleading. Again, I needed a C. But basically, what it really is momentum. Momentum is, you all know this, momentum is something that you can feel changing. And so go ride with it, because momentum is really a powerful tool. It's part of tone, it's part of brand, it's part of competition, it's part of everything. So go with the momentum. And also, what is contagious, basically? And I don't mean a disease. Enthusiasm is contagious. Passion is contagious. Laughter is contagious. I don't know if you've seen, Pfizer is doing a TV spot now that I think is brilliant. It's got a bunch of seniors laughing. And it just starts out, and there's just a couple of people laughing, really hearty laughs. And then it says, laughter is contagious. Unfortunately, so is RSV. And so they're obviously pushing their vaccine. But it's a great spot because the laughter is fabulous. Yeah, it's a great spot. I think that's clever. And I like clever. So think about the things that are contagious. And that's another thing you can do that doesn't cost you anything. And be enthusiastic, be passionate, care about your customers. Your employees will see that and they will do that. And so cheerleading is really important. Sincerity is really important. And people pick up on that, and definitely your employees pick up on that. Okay, number 8 is calibration, and what I mean by that is timing, because obviously you have to think about the timing of your business. Does it have a season? Is it a good time to open a Cane's, to build a Chick-fil-A when, or vice versa? Timing really is important. If you sell sporting equipment or whatever, people watching the Olympics, is their top of mind awareness up during the Olympics? You bet it is. So that's why a lot of people, it's not that if you can't afford to buy ads during the Olympics, you can certainly afford to just do different kinds of promotion that support the things the Olympics are all about, which whether it's athleticism and sports or loyalty to country or whatever. So timing is really important. And so is pivoting. Occasionally, you just have to pivot. And that's another thing that entrepreneurs know. Occasionally, you may think you have the greatest idea in the world and you go with it, and then all of a sudden it's, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. Don't be afraid to admit that and just pivot and do something else. Or hopefully along the way you've discovered something that will help you, guide you in your next move. But don't be afraid to pivot. It's not, don't think of it as failure. It's really not failure. It's creating an opportunity or something like that, because pivoting is really important and you need to be able to do it. Number 9 is challenges. And again, we talked about desired challenges, and occasionally they're undesired. How many of you remember where the first mass shooting occurred in America? And by first, 2. By mass, it was only 2 people. Anybody remember where it was? Nope. I can tell you, it was in San Ysidro in a McDonald's. And you know why you don't remember? You know what McDonald's did? And I was part of the planning. They tore the building down within 48 hours. It was a successful McDonald's store on a park in San Ysidro, and they did not want anything standing that represented the guy who walked in one day just out of the blue and shot one of their customers and one of their employees. They literally tore the building down and turned it into a park. At the time, when there were some of us, like I said, in the planning, and they said they were going to do it, and I thought, what? And that cost them millions of dollars. And I was flabbergasted they were going to do it, and then I thought, wow. That's really smart. That is really smart. And now I admire them even more, because they didn't want discussion. They were incredible to the family. They were very attentive and caring to the family. The owner-operator did it personally, and I thought they handled it really well, and they just did not want that building standing. They didn't, and they succeeded, because none of you guessed right. Because now it's not when people say, where was the first mass murder? You know, you guess other cities. Nobody says the McDonald's at San Ysidro. And that's what would have happened had they left it standing. And it was to the news media, it was story over. They caught, the guy was arrested immediately, so that helped. And then as I said, they dealt with the situation. It's not like they ignored it. But what they didn't want standing was a store where that had occurred. And certainly not a store where there were bullet holes in the windows and things like that. They're undesired connections, but you can't exactly turn them into your advantage, but you can certainly minimize the discussion about it, the media attention to it, and things like that, because that's really important. And then challenges these days, I know hiring is just almost impossible, especially if you need younger people and you need employees on the front line and things like that. That's a huge challenge. That's another reason to belong to associations, because a lot of you hear from other people. 1, they share your pain, and 2, you can commiserate, same thing. And then 3, it's often a reference to where to find people. Did you guys go to C&M or do a job fair or whatever? So that really helps. And number 10 is celebration, and I really mean that, because don't be afraid to celebrate your successes. A lot of people think, gee, did I really do anything right, or is this worth celebrating? Heck, yes it is. If you have a 1-year anniversary, go for it. If you have an employee who has a birthday, go for it. If you have a customer who's been in the store 100 times, there's all kinds of things you could celebrate that people don't celebrate. And I personally believe that customers don't think that's corny, they think that's cool. So don't be afraid to celebrate. Be proud of your accomplishments. If you enjoy your work, contagious, and so your customers will figure that out, and so will your employees. And I also think humor, I just personally, and it's a style thing, like humor in advertising and in marketing. I think, again, it's one of the reasons I like the Pfizer ad. It's one of the reasons that I liked Where's the Beef? Some of the famous commercials that you can recall were usually funny ones. You don't remember like the downers or whatever. People need a reason to laugh. Believe me, these days they're always looking for it. And so if you can help them laugh or at least smile, And don't underestimate puppies and children and things that are fairly predictable. Those are cliches, but it's because they work.